up, a Cinema Shogun here, and we all know that everyone had to sign a waiver before going on board the Titanic sub. In this waiver, it listed multiple ways in which you could die. It listed multiple things that could go wrong with the sub while you're deep beneath the ocean's surface. And by signing this waiver, you acknowledge that these things could go wrong. You acknowledge that you could die. And by signing the waiver, you're basically stating that if something were to happen, that OceanGate would not be held liable. They would not be held responsible for whatever happened. But you see, these waivers, they still have limits. You know what I mean? And OceanGate far surpassed those limits of protection in many ways, if you ask me. For example, how can I break it down? Let's say I have a piece of beef jerky and I want to sell it to you so you can eat it. But before I sell it to you, I have you sign a waiver stating that if you get sick, it's not my fault. And it's a normal piece of beef jerky. Let's say you eat it and it turns out you're allergic to beef jerky and something happens to you. That has nothing to do with me, right? I can't be held accountable for that. Now, let's say I have a piece of beef jerky and I want to sell it to you and I have you sign a waiver. But in the back of my mind, I know that the beef I used was spoiled. I used dirty equipment. And I knew that you were going to get sick from this beef jerky. It's not a normal piece of beef jerky like the first piece. No, I know that this one is gross and disgusting and will probably get you sick. Even though I have you sign a waiver, that doesn't mean that I necessarily can't be held accountable for knowingly selling you something that was totally not safe. Now, it's interesting when cases like this go to court and things of that nature, but like I told you all in my last video, I think the only thing that is saving OceanGate from some type of criminal charges is the fact that the CEO, Stockton Rush, the man that's behind the design of the sub, is dead. But from what I'm hearing, there's still a possibility. It may be a small possibility, but there is still a possibility that OceanGate gets hit with criminal charges. And if they did, I would fully understand why, and I would support it. I'm not out here advocating like, yeah, we need to criminally charge OceanGate, but best believe if it was you, if it was your little family-owned business, if it was your little mom-and-pop shop, if it was your company that was responsible for the deaths of 4 individuals, I know 5 died, but 1 was the CEO, then best believe they would find any way possible to hold you accountable. So I'm not going to sit here and cry if OceanGate gets held accountable for what happened to the people on board the Titan sub. I want to go ahead and read for you all something that a lawyer had to say about all of this, because from what she's saying, she believes that there is a possibility that criminal charges will be brought against OceanGate. And I already know that they're investigating this story from multiple angles, and they're considering a criminal investigation. They've already yanked audio tapes and stuff off the ship, so they're looking into this from various different angles. Who knows what will come of it? I'm not going to sit here and say that I necessarily believe criminal charges will come, but it's still a strong possibility. Let's go ahead and dive in. Before we do, hit that thumbs up button and let's see what they have to say. If the company ignored safety precautions and so forth, then the company can be held criminally responsible, says trial lawyer Naima Rahmani. According to CBS journalist David Pogue, He was required to sign a waiver before his dive on the Titan last summer, which he says is quite clear about all the ways that you could be permanently disabled, emotionally traumatized, or killed. The waiver says that the vessel has not been inspected or certified by any government body. So you know very well what it is, that it is a one-of-a-kind vessel. However, trial lawyer and former federal prosecutor Naima Rahmani says that the waiver does not protect OceanGate from all types of criminal action in the light of the passenger's death. You can only waive a simple negligence, Rahmani says. By law, you can't waive gross negligence. So this is above and beyond, you know. So whatever waiver they signed, you can waive known risk, but you can't waive something more than that, which again, I'm certain no expert in these type of vessels, but this seems like something more than simple negligence. It really comes down to the nature of the action and notice, Rahmani adds. If the company knows that this is dangerous, they're ignoring warnings, they're not participating in safety protocols or reviews, that type of thing that's standard in the industry. If they're not participating in what's the industry standard or the custom, that's evidence that can come in at any trial, whether it's civil or criminal, of negligence or criminal recklessness. Rahmani says that he believes a civil lawsuit is 100% certain. The civil lawsuit is pretty much absolute certainty, he says. The criminal prosecution is a bigger question. It really depends on the factors that we talked about, you know. What did they know? What did they do in response? Knowing how high profile this is, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a criminal prosecution of people who were responsible for this. One thing that could possibly make criminal charges a bit harder is the fact that OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush is among the passengers who are presumed dead after the submersible's implosion. If the company ignored safety precautions and so forth, then the company can be held criminally responsible. Of course, you can always sue a company. However, Rahmani says it's hard to determine what type of changes the company could face, or what type of charges the company could face at this time without gathering more information. It's really going to depend on what they did and what steps they took to make the vessel safe, he says. If they ignored warnings from employees or regulators, whether it's in the form of civil lawsuit or criminal subpoenas or search warrants, prosecutors and lawyers are going to get that information. It's a high-profile case. When billionaires die, that's something that gets a lot of attention. If there's a basis for manslaughter charges, people will be charged in a case like this. Absolutely. Whoa, manslaughter charges. I wasn't expecting charges like that. So as you see, folks, there's still a possibility that criminal charges are brought against OceanGate. Who would be charged? Would it be Stockton Rush's wife? Would it be the co-founder who doesn't even work with the company anymore? Would it be one of the young people that Stockton Rush hired? Remember the other day when we went over those comments that Stockton Rush made about how he didn't want to hire 50-year-old white men? He wanted young, diverse people working for his company. Remember when I told you that he did that to shield himself from criticism and so that he wouldn't be the fall guy if something went wrong? Wouldn't it be absolutely devastating if some young person at this company is charged with something because of Stockton Rush? Wouldn't that be something? This is crazy. Manslaughter, that's a serious charge. I wasn't expecting charges like that. But anything is in the realm of possibilities right now. I think we could all agree that lawsuits are coming. Everyone thinks that lawsuits are coming. But like I was saying at the beginning of this video, even though you have people sign a waiver, it only protects you so much. And even though people signed a waiver, I still think that it's downright, it's obviously wrong, but I think it should be illegal that Stockton Rush was not just sitting. It's not like OceanGate was just a place where you stumble upon it and then you go and maybe buy a ticket. It's not like the local Walgreens or something. No, Stockton Rush was actively going out trying to find customers, trying to convince them that his craft was safe. And we know that it wasn't. We now know that he was using expired carbon fiber. That right there. Even if you signed a waiver, I think that right there shows gross negligence. Not only were you using a material that your entire industry warned you was not safe, carbon fiber is not used to build these other subs that they're building. So that right there is already bad enough. But then you go and buy expired carbon fiber. And then the window on your vehicle. You knew, everyone knew. You fired people who criticized you. I am telling you. The only thing that may be saving OceanGate is that Stockton Rush is not here. If Stockton Rush was still here, I think we would have probably already seen charges brought against him. Or maybe it's a little too soon. Within the next couple of weeks, I feel like we would have seen something. But I'm still sitting here wondering what's going to come of this. Like I told you, I don't necessarily believe that they're going to charge anyone here. Mainly because Stockton Rush is gone and because this is a devastating situation. And maybe they think that it wouldn't be necessarily a good look to put people through more devastation after what already happened. But at the end of the day, like I told you before, if it was one of us, we would be held accountable. Best believe that. But it shows you how these big companies, these rich people, these billionaires, they can get away with anything. They can make experimental subs, take you to the bottom of the ocean, explode, and still not have to suffer from any consequences. Or their business won't have to suffer from any consequences. I think that OceanGate needs to close the gate and go home. I don't think they ever need to open their doors again. I think someone would have to be literally insane to hop aboard another OceanGate craft. But then again, there are stupid people out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if they would. But I think it needs to get shut down if they're not already in the process of shutting themselves down. And to think that there's a possibility that people who helped design this craft are hit with charges. I really wonder how that would go. How would they decide who is charged? Or, it's kind of it's a very confusing situation because you have the waiver there. You have to figure out, if the waiver protects some of the stuff that they were doing. And then you have to figure out who's going to get the charges. It's an all-around messed up, just tangled up situation right now. And I'm just sitting here waiting to see the outcome, like all of you all. Let me know your thoughts about this, though, down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.